evening, YouTube. Hopefully, you guys have had a good end to the week. You guys are recharged and ready for the work week ahead. There's a lot to talk about here, of course. It's the springtime, so it's no surprise that we're talking about severe weather. So, we're not gonna ramble too much. We're just gonna get right on into it. So we talked yesterday about some of the risk for this week ahead. Pretty much, we have severe weather expected from tonight into Thursday. So we have a small isolated area, a slight risk for tonight. Most of this seems to be in rural areas, which is a good thing. And if you look real closely here, you can actually see that we have some activity starting to develop in that severe weather threat area. A lot of the We've gone over pretty much all the parameters yesterday for this storm system. There isn't a whole lot that really comes together in regards to a potential severe weather outbreak, and even the Storm Prediction Centers pretty much said it all here. Isolated severe wind gusts and hail are most likely around southwest Oklahoma and into Texas, centered around 5 to 10 p.m. Central Daylight Time. And then, of course, we have a chance of a few storms maybe pulsing severe around southern Florida. Nothing new there. But we do have a few more changes that I do want to go into detail about, particularly Monday, because as you can see, we now have an enhanced risk. They've also trimmed back on the slight risk area as well. They've kind of highlighted this area more now, and areas to the south, there aren't as many cities under this slight risk. Yesterday, from what I saw, New Orleans, you were in it. Now you're not. And, well, Fort Sill is still in it. Greenville, you're just now on the line. You were well within it yesterday. So there are some improvements for some, and others, things didn't get any better. In fact, it got worse. Alexandria, Louisiana, Shreveport, you're now in this. Jackson, Mississippi, you're in an enhanced risk now. So is Dallas. And Waco, you're just on the line. Lufkin, Texas, you're in the enhanced risk as well. So a lot of interesting stuff going on here. All hazards are possible. So let's get into it. Our tornado threat in the enhanced region, we have a 5% chance of tornadoes within 25 miles of a given point within our enhanced risk, and then around most of our slight risk and marginal, it's 2%. For those guys that are in that 2%, Abilene, this includes you, as well as Austin, Houston, San Antonio, New Orleans, Mobile, Greenville, and Fort Sill. Now, the real reason why we have this enhanced risk is because of the wind threat. This is definitely looking like a straight line wind oriented event. In the 30% area, we have Jackson, Lufkin, Waco, Dallas, and Alexandria again. And then in the 15%, it pretty much encases all of our slight risk and our enhanced risk. Same cities that I had just mentioned are in the 15%. So let's move forward to day 3. And now we have our slight risk. We have a probabilistic outlook for day 3. We don't have a hazard outlook yet. We'll have one by tomorrow morning. And I've also noticed that they've trimmed back their slight risk that they had outlined for this area yesterday. A lot of this area that's now under the marginal risk actually was under a slight risk. So I guess there's been some decrease in confidence as far as where the storms are going to be firing, or where they're most likely to be firing. They can still happen in the marginal, but the slight risk always is going to get more attention than the marginal. So Mobile, you're in this again. You're in a slight risk. Dothan, Alabama, you're in it. Atlanta, you're no longer in the slight risk. You're in a marginal. But there's more weather to come for you guys as well. Columbus, you are in the slight risk. And then we have a few other areas. Macon, you're in there as well. Albany, you're in the slight risk. And then in the marginal, we have Birmingham, of course, Atlanta, I just mentioned. New Orleans, you're in it as well. Charlotte, you're in there. And Jacksonville, Panama City, and Tallahassee. Now let's go to days 4 through 8. I'm going to look through that one more time. Atlanta, you're in this one, and this is also pretty much outlined as a slight risk, a 15% chance of severe weather within 25 miles of a given point. I do think they're going to trend this part back and push it a little bit more west. Birmingham, you're still in the slight risk. Mobile, you are definitely in it again for the third day in a row from the looks of it. Dothan, a lot of the same areas that I've name called in those last couple of days. You're in there again, but this also pushes north too. So Nashville, you're in there, Chattanooga, and some parts of particularly southeastern Kentucky, and then southwestern Virginia. You guys are in this too. We'll get into detail about that tomorrow because we're pretty far out still on that. That should be within day 3 by tomorrow, so we'll have a little bit more info to work with. Then we'll finally be within the short range, and we'll figure out what modes we may be dealing with. Then on Thursday, we have one more area. And now this is actually pushed a little bit further south as well. Charleston, you're just outside of the slight risk line. I do think this may push back west. I wouldn't rule it out, so definitely be weather aware. Wilmington, you guys are in this too. Raleigh, Virginia Beach, Richmond, Roanoke, and I'm starting to see this line scooting ever closer to Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. So be on the lookout for severe weather over there too, even though you are not in the 15% area yet. And then after that, on days 6 and 7, potential is too low. It's a break for everybody. And then on day 8, predictability too low. It's too far for me to look out into this with all this weather ahead. I will try to get a closer look at day 8, which looks to be Monday of next week, when we get closer within range. And once we get to about Friday, Saturday, maybe Sunday next week. But let's take a look at what we're expecting tonight. We already know the temperatures are going to be high in this area. Storms are firing up right now as we speak in this area. I'm going to try to get in up close with this, and we're going to see just what we're up against. Storms have already fired, so this is a little bit off on the timing. Right now it is probably it's 6:34 over there, Central Daylight Time. So we're a little bit behind. Storms are already here, basically. We're already at this point. So these storms are going to fire, and they're going to stay relatively isolated in nature. And we're just going to move right up, and we're going to keep this short and sweet. Could be a couple of overnight severe storms, so definitely stay weather aware in this part of Oklahoma and Texas right here. Now that's done. We'll actually exit out of that, and we're gonna take a look at Monday's threat a lot more closer than we did yesterday. So it's Monday morning. We're gonna watch these temperatures build, and I'm thinking right about into the late night hours, especially around this area in particular, is of extreme interest to me. This area is where we have that 5% chance of tornadoes. Into the late night hours, we have temperatures that are reaching about 70. Some areas even pushing 75. Areas around here starting to push even 80 into the late evening hours. Prime time for severe weather. Low-level jet really tends to strengthen around this time frame too. Temperatures are definitely where you would want them to be. We'll look at the dew points. I'm pretty much expecting to see some really high dew points, really well spiked into the 60s, maybe even a couple points might get 70, which would be some really bad news. And lo and behold, there we are. You see this little purple right here? We're getting into the 70s in this area here, and this is trying to push its way north. Doesn't quite make it too far. Uh-oh, I done bumped something. Sounding for the wrong area. Sorry about that. But you can clearly see we have areas that are reaching 70 right around the San Antonio, Houston area. And right around the western part of Louisiana, we have some areas that are hitting 66 degrees Fahrenheit on dew points. More than favorable for some severe weather. Marginal severe. I do think this could have a potential straight line wind, maybe even a tornado threat. Definitely a hail threat because we can see that we have lapse rates here. Whenever you see separation between the temperature and the dew point, that's always a telltale sign that we have some sufficient lapse rates. Hordeograph did have a slight curve to it, but let's move forward. We'll watch this rich moisture move further and further to the east. Getting to Tuesday now, and this is when things start to really get juicy. Look at that. Right towards the Gulf Coast in particular, I do think that this could warrant a potential enhanced risk. We'll take a closer look at that tomorrow. But from what I can see here, definitely a lot more moisture than what we have seen in recent weeks towards the Gulf Coast. Could make for a very dangerous Tuesday. So I would not be surprised at all to see an enhanced risk issued for areas that are to the east towards the Gulf, and maybe even a little bit into central Alabama and Mississippi. Very rich Gulf moisture here. Very dangerous, very ominous sign there. Take a look at the reflectivity, kind of see what we're dealing with there. If we get a line of storms, my concern is that there might be some embedded supercells, or we might get some isolated supercells out ahead of the line. That's where my main concern lies. Because if we have any kind of low-level jet, which I'm sure we will have, that will tell you that pretty much starts to scream this has a tornado threat written all over it. Like I said, we'll get a better idea of what the hazard, how intense the hazard type risk is, but I'm definitely seeing a lot of people in line for some very strong storms. So we've moved on to Monday here. We're watching our weather form around central Oklahoma and southern Texas. Threat really doesn't develop until late into the overnight for southern Texas. This definitely looks like a line of severe thunderstorms, mostly a straight line wind threat. And then here we are right around here. There's plenty of convection around this area, and we're going to take a look at what we might have here. Then we have a marginal tornado threat. Lo and behold, there is a slight curvature in the hordeograph, but it's not the most impressive thing. A lot of convection here. It's going to limit the tornado threat because to have a higher tornado threat, you want to see discrete storms, discrete supercells. Going to take a look here, try to get a sampling here. It's going to be marginal severe, not surprising. I'm going to move this further and further ahead. We get little segments of a line forming out ahead of the main line where the cold front's going to be, which is really interesting. It's going to be a very messy kind of storm system. This could also downplay the Wednesday threat, so it'll be interesting to see how this evolves here. So let's take a look on the south side. Trying to see where our tornado risk could be. It's very marginal, it looks like, with this storm system. So we go through Wednesday, we go through early, Wednesday morning or late Tuesday night, and this all moves off very quickly. So now that we've looked into that, let's take a closer look at the severe weather parameters. Let's take a look at the Cape. See what we got for Monday and Tuesday, because that's going to play a big part in everything. I do expect some values about 1,500 at the very least. Hang on, let's get this thing to move. Uh-oh. There we go. There we go. She's not wanting to move quickly, but she is going to move. Okay, there we go. Or not. Uh-oh. Oh, come on. She doesn't want to work with me here. Or the hotkeys don't want to work. I just guess I got to do it manually. Yeah, I got to do it this way then. There we go. Now it's working. So we're watching our cape go into tonight's threat, watching it diminish, and then our cape builds up late Monday night, and we have some areas where we're hitting about 800, 900 joules, maybe even 1,000 at some places. More than sufficient enough. Well, I'm really expecting the cape to really pick up into tomorrow afternoon. Expect to see, yep, and look at that. Look at that. Would you look at that right there? Getting towards 2,000. I even saw a point where we're getting at about close to 2,200 right here. Be interesting to see what the mode will be for this. Most likely damaging. Oh, there we go. There's our curved. That's our curved hordeograph. Got our lapse rates. So I'm definitely looking at a tornado threat for Mississippi in particular. Lapse rates. We have lapse rates. We have a decent amount of convection at the low levels. Looks interesting right there. Some pretty high cape values, plenty of energy in the atmosphere. So there's definitely room for embedded supercells. So into the overnight, and this energy hangs around into the overnight too. So this will get into Alabama, into western Alabama, western and even central Alabama, into Tuesday evening, and then we'll watch this all move into southern Georgia and, well, pretty much all of Georgia into the overnight from the looks of it. We still have plenty of cape values, so I think tornado threat becomes a little bit more. Oh my goodness. I haven't been reading soundings for a minute, but that's kind of alarming. This says PDS Tor. So I haven't really talked about some of the terminology and whether, and at some point I do promise that I will, especially as we get more of an audience. But PDS, for your information, is particularly dangerous situation. This isn't a term they use often unless things are looking kind of ugly, which it definitely is. We have capes over 2,000s. We have plenty of moisture. We got warm temperatures into the overnight, and we have our lapse rate here. I keep talking about this little spacing right here as you get higher up into the atmosphere. This is a suggestion for hail, and this is a suggestion for tornadoes. So to anyone that's in southern Georgia into the late night hours on Tuesday, definitely be weather aware. Have a way to get your warnings. Have a way to get woken up at night, because this don't look good. This don't look good at all. And I mean, this area, and really around this area, even Atlanta, I'm kind of curious. Oh boy. This is actually my first time looking at this because these models are relatively new. I haven't been seeing this on the last few runs, but look at that curvature right there. That's alarming. There's definitely a tornado threat even for Atlanta now. So definitely be weather aware. I do think Tuesday night into Wednesday could be very dangerous. So please, please, please don't take this lightly. Don't be scared. Be prepared. And be weather aware. That all rhymed. But seriously, guys, be on the lookout, because this could be a very nasty night for us. So we'll move this a little bit further forward towards the end of the run, and we still have a nice little streak of cape here that we're hitting about 2,000. So this is a very, very interesting situation here. Panhandle of Florida. You're also in line for a potential tornado threat. Parameters look pretty good for a tornado threat. So everybody that I've mentioned today, Atlanta, Panama City, Montgomery, Birmingham, Jackson. Shoot, there's a lot of cities to name, but we might have some ugly weather coming our way, guys. So definitely be on alert. But that's all I got for you guys. Well, no, actually, no, it's not. We're going to take a look at one more thing here. I want to take a look at this significant tornado parameter. So, I'm going to let this load real quick. Oh, he didn't look at the low-level jet either. So I'm not done just yet. This might be a little bit longer of a video, but hopefully you'll bear with me here, because this definitely looks like a little bit more urgent of a situation than what I was even expecting, to be honest. So we're going to move through our STP real quick, our significant tornado parameter. So we do have a few values on late Monday night into Tuesday around here. They're relatively low. Ones, maybe a 2 in there somewhere. I really expect these numbers to kind of spike into mid-Monday. And there we go. We're getting some 2s. Maybe even a 3 is mixed in there somewhere. And there we go. Later into Tuesday night, these numbers really start to spike. We're starting to get into the 3s, starting to get into the 4s. Threats getting more and more considerable. Even see a small area of pink developing here, which means we're getting towards the 5. We're starting to get up there in the scale, and this is definitely getting more and more out of hand from the looks of it. Yeah, definitely getting some 4s in there somewhere. This is around the area where I had picked up on that PDS tornado as the hazard type here, so this is definitely matches up. Ooh, whoa. Let's take a look at that, because this is one area I haven't even looked at yet. Tornado threat here. Convection, not the greatest lapse rates I've ever seen, but they're definitely present. This was like a secondary area of Cape that I was looking at earlier too, but I just never clicked on the sounding. So this actually looks like it includes areas like Charleston. Shout out to my big bro there, and definitely be watchful, because this might be heading your way too, man. And this is the end of my model run. Whoa. We have a little pocket there where we could be hitting some really high lapse rates, about maybe even 5, 6 there. So definitely looking at some very nasty weather ahead. I kind of got ahead of myself. I really should have looked at the low-level jet first, but I'm always leery of this map because of the problems it's given me in the past. But today it looks like it's behaving. So we do get a little bit of a low-level jet late tonight into the overnight. Might be a slight chance of a nocturnal tornado. Pretty minimal. So I'm expecting a big spike late Monday night around this area. There it is. And there's a spot where we're hitting about 50 to 60 knots. We're starting to really build our severe weather threat, and then this picks up tremendously. We're getting into the 60 knot. We're getting into the 60 knot and even 70 at some spots. I think I saw 72 right here just a second ago. Let's see if I can find it again. It's gonna be tricky. There it is, 72 right there. And we'll get this, take a look and see what the shear type is. And this is actually more of a severe threat, but there is a tornado threat, because you see that little curve in the hordeograph. Same thing. Temperatures aren't quite ideal for it though. A lot of convection. This will probably inhibit some storm development. So move further and further forward, and there's another wind maximum that develops here, and this is right around the area of our tornado threat. And then up to the north too, there's even a bit of a maximum that develops here. So this definitely looks like an area that could be in play. It all matches up with that sounding perfectly. Even towards Atlanta, we're getting the low-level jet close to about 60 knots. Definitely very alarming. And then as we move this further and further forward, Kentucky and Tennessee, you guys are in play for that as well. Core North Carolina, I think this could definitely be an overnight type deal as well. Very alarming. Very, very alarming stuff that I'm seeing here. So watch this move off to the east on Wednesday, and it could be an early morning severe weather threat for Thursday. I have to take another look at this again, but they're saying that there could be another potential threat. We'll take a look at that more tomorrow. But that's all I have for you guys tonight. I know this was a little bit longer of a video, and I apologize for it, but it's a lot of information that I'm just now seeing for the first time myself. Wow, look at that, 74 knots. I'm out here getting distracted like it's nobody's business. I do think that severe weather threat's going to move up towards Washington, D.C. But again, that's all I have for you guys tonight. This has been Ty, Metalhead Weatherman. Let's stay weather aware this week. Looks like we got a lot of nasty weather coming on. I'll be more than happy to go over this stuff with you over the coming days leading up to it. But you guys stay safe, and I will see you guys tomorrow afternoon.